Jordan Peterson was asked, what is the best argument for atheism? Here is his answer. I haven't seen this. I'm going in blind. I'm very curious to see what he's going to say. Let's check it out together.
I don't think there is a good argument for atheism. I think it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the world. So it's just, it's what would you say? It's an illegal chess move.
Okay. Well,
it's based on the wrong...
This might just show that I don't understand you, but we'll get to it if I don't.
The best argument for atheism.
What's the best of the worst arguments?
Materialistic determinism is the best argument for atheism.
But isn't that a philosophical sort of assumption or axiom?
That's a problem.
Yeah. Like for me, I think it would be, if this, and let's just choose the Christian God, if he exists and wants me to know him and save me, wouldn't he make it easier? Why does he make it so difficult? Why does he seem to hide? And
because you have something to do. Okay. You have something important to do. It's no game. The price of life is death. It's not a game, right? There's evil too. You have something to do. It's not easy. In fact, it'll take everything you have. Everything. Right? That's why you're to consecrate everything to God. You're not an infant. But you're not being treated by God like an infant. You're being treated by God like someone
responsible moral agent. He doesn't just want comfortable little pets and
someone to be made in the image of God is to be someone who wrestles with potential. To genuinely
wrestle with potential.
That's right. Well, that's the tohu vabohu that exists at the beginning of time. Right? The potential, the watery chaos. Okay. The Spirit of God sits above the chaos, the primordial chaos, and extracts order out of that. That's what you do as a conscious agent. And you do that. You do that in a way that is aimed towards hell or aimed towards heaven. Really.
But you wouldn't think people who claim to be atheists are necessarily irrational?
They're perfectly rational if you accept the initial axiom, but I don't accept the initial axiom.
What's the original?
Like I said, it's something like a materialist determinism.
Yeah.
No. First of all, whatever matter is, and we certainly don't understand it, it doesn't look at all like something deterministic at the highest level of resolution. Mm-hmm. There's something very weird going on down there at the quantum level, and what the philosophical implications of that are, God only knows. But there's no easy determinism in the physical realm. So anybody who claims that is like stuck in the world of Newton. They're like in 1830. What if the person just...
Yeah, I'm very curious. If you're an atheist and you're watching this, what is the best argument for determinism? I really would love to hear this. Let me know in the comments. What is the best argument for determinism? Jordan Peterson is obviously railing against this idea of materialistic determinism. So what is the best argument for it? He is saying, again, that maybe it's not the case that atheists themselves are irrational by their nature, but the worldview of determinism, materialistic determinism, we are just going to do what we are going to do, in essence, that is irrational.
Says, all right, I'm open to believing in God or not believing in God, and I've seen no good evidence or arguments for God's existence.
It's like I said, it's an illegal game move. It has nothing to do with... See, the problem with that argument is that it's an atheist argument right from the beginning. Well, what's the evidence? It's like, belief in God is not propositional acceptance of a set of descriptive facts. That's not what it is. It's commitment, right? So what does it mean to follow in the footsteps of Christ? To believe. It means to hoist your damn cross and walk up the hill. It doesn't mean that you say, what does Christ say? Not all those who say, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What? The religious doctrine is not a scientific theory. It's not something you believe like you believe a description of a set of facts. Okay. It's a mode of being. It's a mode of apprehension. It's a mode of perception. It's a mode of action.
I'm pushing back to see if I can understand what you're getting at. Like, in order for me to marry my wife, I need to know she exists, and I need to know she's interested in me, and I need to be able to pursue her, right?
To marry your wife, you need to take a leap of faith.
But I need to know she exists first in order to...
Oh, true.
So that's what I'm saying with God's existence. If God does exist... surely I need some kind of reason to think this isn't just a story I'm telling myself.
Conscience.
Okay, so what the interviewer is trying to do right now, and again, this is my first time seeing it, he's trying to, because Jordan Peterson's saying, it's not about like facts, it's about a commitment that you make. And the guy's saying, hold on though, but to make a commitment to someone, you've got to at least be able to believe that they exist. You've got to have some kind of reason for this, because it does sound like what Jordan Peterson is saying right now is essentially belief in God has nothing to do with what's true. It has everything to do with what kind of commitment you're willing to make.
Where does that pesky little thing come from?
I think there's three options.
Okay.
One might be, we evolved this way.
That's fine. I'm perfectly happy
with that. But here's my problem with that. Yeah, because if you say, okay, if we were pillaging, we would have never gotten this far as a species. Therefore, these things have become taboo or something like that, which is a far cry from saying they're somehow objectively wrong or mind independently
I don't know. It's not
evil.
so far. It's not so far. No, I think the evolutionary biology and the religious will dovetail perfectly.
Well, okay, but then here's the thing:
God is the deepest instinct.
If I now know that it's evolution that's wired me thus, I can choose to disobey it. It's lower than me. I could be Raskolnikov, presumably. I can go against it.
Of course, that's
and another source would be individuals. Like you could tell me I'm a bad person to do X, Y, or Z, or praise me if I do other things, and I might feel good or feel bad. Or collectively as society, you can say this.
Yeah.
But just as you have no right, it seems to me, to determine how I ought to live, collectively, why would you have any more authority?
That's Raskolnikov's argument too.
So it seems
okay. So where does the conscience come from? This is Jordan Peterson's argument here. If you're going to argue that God, there's evidence for God, one of his arguments that he's giving right now is the conscience. Where does the conscience come from? If you say that the conscience comes from an evolved sense of morality, then how could you bind that on anybody? If you just say that it's fully subjective, again, then how can you hold anybody to it? On what good grounds? On what moral grounds could you throw someone into jail for violating your conscience and your sense of morality?
Or the Marquis de Sade.
So this objective morality could come from beneath us in evolution, from outside of us on our level.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes from above us. And then it's like, okay, if it comes from above us, is it in some sort of Platonic form? And if it is a Platonic form, is there a commandment being issued? And why do I need to be obedient to a Platonic form?
So you don't end up in hell.
While you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Let's get back to the video.
That's why.
Right. So I could, yeah.
No, but seriously, that's why.
I see.
It's like,
this is sort of like
violate the moral order and watch what happens. Go right ahead.
I'm with you. This is the sort of Aristotelian Nicomachean ethics idea, right? Where like eudaimonia is just flourishing. And so it's like there is a way to act.
You put yourself in alignment with the cosmic order.
Yeah. But I could choose not to do that.
Sure.
Which you can choose to go to hell. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you might think, well, it'll be a fine ride on the way, and maybe it will, but that's where you're headed. So no, everything has to be put in proper order. That's why Christ says that he calls upon his followers to be perfect. Why? Because everything has to be put in the proper order. Why? Because otherwise it falls into disorder. It's like, is that good? Well, if you want disorder, but what are you going to do? You're going to heap burning coals of fire on your own head? Well, you can. That's hell. Every devil shoveling the burning coal on his own head. Right.
I'm still trying to get at this. So what if I just say, all right, I can't believe in some invisible sugar daddy up in the... this is not what I think. Invisible sugar daddy up in the clouds who's going to give me a theme park if I just quit betting, all right? I can't believe that anymore. It just seems like it's it, and it's a fairy tale that people tell themselves.
Well, it is and it isn't. It's a concretized representation, but it's not without its wisdom. Like, there isn't anything more complex in the cosmos than a human psyche. And to think of the psyche, let's say the Father, as a representation of the highest spirit, it's not prima facie absurd. It's not a bad metaphor.
But surely it's not playing a game to just be curious and say, okay, maybe there is no such being as God. Maybe Jesus wasn't the second person of the Blessed Trinity. Maybe heaven is a myth. And yet these stories help me flourish for some unknown reason. And so I'm best to go along with it. But it's hard to really get on board with something.
Well, you can't commit to that. No. Yeah. This is like...
So now they're talking about, what about just having a sort of relationship with God? What about just using God in a fully pragmatic sense? And this is something that Jordan Peterson does a version of this, but he obviously disagrees with it if you carry it out fully. He's not all the way there, but a lot of people just go, why don't I just use the morals, use the ethics, use the values, but I don't really believe in the myth. I don't really believe in God.
But it's hard to really get on board with something.
Well, you can't commit to that. No. Yeah. This is an all-in enterprise.
Okay.
It's an all-in enterprise. So in the story of Cain and Abel, for example, Abel offers his best, and God accepts it. And Cain doesn't. Cain offers what's second best, and God rejects it. And that's life. And everyone knows that. It's like life is a fatal game. And it's going to require everything you have. And everyone knows that. It's like, you can offer your second best and be accepted? No. First of all, you won't even accept yourself under those circumstances, because you'll take no pride in not pride, wrong word. You'll take no solace in your accomplishments if they're of second-rate quality.
Yeah.
Right? You can't fool yourself.
If you could have done better, yeah.
That's for sure. And the times when you're somewhat satisfied with your miserable existence, well, that's when you know you've put something on the line. Right? And that's what you're called to do by your wife and by your children and by your community, by your conscience. Well, that's all a reflection of something real. And you might say, well, not transcendentally real. It's like, well, why not?
Okay, so Jordan Peterson's argument here is that when you do commit yourself in service to God, you are tapping into something real that you don't experience when you just live a completely materialistic life. When you just live this life that you're in your mind, you're just doing things on a materialistic basis, just living out just what your body has been predetermined to do by in materialistic determinism. When you stop doing that, and when you actually seek God and seek to live for God, you are tapping into something that is transcendent above our life, transcendent above our plane, you might even call it. He's saying you're tapping into something powerful, something real. You can't just say, I'm going to take the morals of the Bible and then just live after those but not believe in God. You can't commit to that. You won't commit to that. When you fully act on your belief in God, you know this. You're tapping into something real, something really effective, powerful, that is unexplained by human wisdom.
Okay. Why not transcendently real?
Yeah.
What do you think? We're made in opposition to the spirit of the natural order? Is that your theory? Or we're random? Really? Random. That's your theory, is it? That's not a very smart theory.
Okay.
It's not a very smart theory that we're just randomly made. Instead of we are made in connection with the natural order. That's a very interesting thought. And again, it connects to people like Aquinas said a lot of that, which is interesting. This is Pints with Aquinas, the YouTube channel.
Okay.
There's nothing random. There's some random mutation, and even that's not true. You know there's a hierarchy of mutational repair?
No.
Yeah, well, this has been discovered quite recently. Mutation is random. No, turns out that's not true, because mutations that occur to genes that are crucial for survival are repaired with 100% accuracy. There's some room for experimentation out in the margins, but not at the center, just like in life itself. It's like, and whatever shaped us isn't random. The mutation process, part of it is random. And I suppose we capitalize on chance, but as an explanation for the nature of being itself, it's like, no one knows how life arose. No one knows anything about consciousness.
Yeah.
Not the least. It's a byproduct of neural activity. It's why isn't your solar plexus conscious then?
Yeah.
I love this last part of it. Why isn't your solar plexus conscious? What is it about this thing within us that we barely even understand? How do you explain that with evolution? And how do you explain that? What does that mean? Where does that come from? We're really going to say that comes from just bodily evolution? Why is that there, wherever it is, and not in our solar plexus? Again, the conscience is a very good way to point out that there is something greater than us out there. There's something greater than us that is a factor in our lives, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. So the existence of the conscience ties to the existence of God. It's the best explanation. That's Jordan Peterson's argument. I agree with that argument as well, but let me know what you think about it. How do you disprove this? How do you debunk it? Give me your thoughts. I'm very curious, especially if you're an atheist, agnostic, whatever it might be. How do you disprove this? What are the problems with some of the things that Jordan Peterson said? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon. God bless you. I love you. Goodbye.